Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 22. Okay, so to start off, there's an interesting small detail to talk about with this episode, which is that as the fight drags on, we see two things happen. We basically see that pretty much the heroes are drawn closer towards the fight, but only end up arriving on the scene after it's over and after Gentle surrenders. The other detail is that as the fight drags on, we see Aizawa, Mirio, and Eri basically like pretty much drive right past Izuku. And when I first saw both of these elements, when I first saw both these elements when I was reading the manga, I was pissed because I was pissed just on the sense where basically once the heroes arrived, they were essentially useless, and even if Mirio didn't have his quirk, I feel he had enough natural strength in order to assist Izuku in some way. But honestly, the pretty much more I ended up but the more I went back to this arc and was rereading this content, the more it finally clicked in me the importance of what was being shown to us with this fight of Izuku versus Gentle. This fight in itself, it's small. It might seem like insignificant, but at the same time, it's a major turning point for Izuku's development in the sense where Gentle and La Brava were the first Gentle and La Brava, more pretty much Gentle than La Brava, was the first villain that Izuku defeated on his own, and by his own merits. Now, of course, there is the argument of how strong Gentle was compared to the other villains that Izuku has faced at this point, obviously, but we still have to remember that in each of those other instances, Izuku has always had someone aiding him in some way, whether or not it was his classmates, whether it was one of the teachers. Like, there's always been like pretty much someone by Izuku's side in order to help him. But whereas with Izuku, whereas with this fight, Izuku was completely alone, and the thing is, if he couldn't defeat Gentle by himself, then it would be really hard. Then at this point, it honestly would be really hard, if not impossible, for him to become the symbol of peace and even just in general continue as a hero moving forward if he couldn't defeat Gentle on his own. And largely because, and here's the thing, like don't get me wrong, a lot of the scenes of Izuku, of Izuku and his friends and whatnot, like pretty much facing villains and whatnot together, they're pretty much good scenes in terms of building up the relationship between those characters. They are. But the problem is that over time, with these scenes of Izuku constantly being helped by others, it can create this perception that Izuku can't do hero work unless he has aid or help from others. So this moment right here, this was the point where unknowingly Izuku had to prove that whole idea of him needing people's help in order to do heroes work was false. And he proved with this episode that he can stand on equal footing with everyone else, with his classmates, with his teachers. He doesn't necessarily need their help in order to do hero work. This was the pivotal moment where Izuku proved he is his own independent hero. He could do hero work on his own. And in some ways, that is almost one of the key features going forward. In order for him to become the symbol of peace, he needs to know he can do hero work on his own. He can do hero work independently. So one other thing that with this episode is that we see La Brava and Gentle's backstories in full focus. And that's one of those times where it again shows us this battle is less about hero versus villain and more about like basically ideologies versus ideologies of ideologies and a person's dream and whatnot. And that's kind of been the theme that has been shown throughout this fight. But on Gentle and Labrava's side, you can see that what motivates them to do what they do and why they focus so much on, and why up to this point that they focus so much on advertising their crimes to the openly, because they're because they're essentially a part of the forgotten ones, a group of people in this society who've been burdened and beaten down so much by the weight of this hero system for just honestly trying to do the right thing and just trying to do the morally right thing. Like with Gentle, as we see, he was just even if he didn't have like a hero license or wasn't a hero, he still wanted to do the right thing, but he was reprimanded for it at every point, and that kept happening until subsequently they pretty much both kind of just slipped through the cracks, and it's through that shared experience how they found each other and why their bond is so strong, because they're basically the pretty much misfits of society. They pretty much had basically they had no choice to turn to villainy, because they weren't accepted by it, their actions, or they themselves weren't really accepted at all. So it was their only option. It's also because of those shared experience of being like the misfits of society that they wanted to show the world how they were affected by that system, even if it meant turning to villainy to do that, because they saw what they were, because they saw even what they were doing was villainy supposedly, or villainy that described by the system. They were doing it as an obligation to teach the world what happens to people like them who have nothing but good intentions but still end up failing. And in that sense, you can say that Gentle and Labrava just wanted to show how their dreams were buried by that system, so that, well, pretty much so that no one would basically will end up going through the same thing again, even if ironically they chose the path that would trample over those dreams to teach that lesson. It's one of those things where it's really a cautionary tale of how you can have the best intentions, but if you don't have the means, resolve, or just the general strength in order to accomplish your goal, then you'll get crushed by your own ambitions. It's in some ways a bit of a callback to like from earlier, to basically early on in the series, where All Might had basically told Izuku that sorry, being like in this world, being a hero, it does largely depend on a quirk. In this case, like both Labrava and Gentle had the quirks, but they just couldn't become heroes because of the system that allows heroes to operate. Like the system is basically is almost rigged in a way where, or even though there are many who succeed, there are equally just as many, if not more, who fail. So it just doesn't allow, it limits heroism, and even though it promotes heroism, it limits heroism in many respects. Now, I will admit one iffy thing about this episode and the arc in general for me still is Labrava's whole quirk being based around the emotions of love. That's kind of just one of those things where it's a little sketchy to me, just on a base level, it being used to give Gentle his power up. And like, just to be clear, it's not fairy tale or SAO bad, and it kind of makes sense in the narrative of Labrava and Gentle's bond and whatnot, and just their relationship and whatnot, that their friendship, their relationship, whatever. But at the same time, like the quirk itself, it just feels out of place, even for this world of so many crazy abilities. And maybe largely it's because Gentle didn't and maybe largely it's because Pretty much Labrava didn't have like a main, really was only like on the side, was really only on the sidelines for a large part of it. So like just bringing it in on the like very last episode, it felt a little like shoehorned in almost. I don't know. It felt. I think if we had maybe gotten her power earlier, I don't know, but yeah, it just felt needed to. We needed a little. We needed a little more time, like to see her use her quirk or something. I don't know, but her quirk, yeah, her quirk just felt out of place, honestly. Um, now now obviously one thing I do want to mention again is obviously the pacing, and the pacing. It's kind of one of those things where, yeah, we're pretty much reaching the end of this arc, and I don't. Again, I think it is. I think we can now confirm actually that this is going to end with the series is going to end with this arc. I think. Like I don't. I think we're probably going to get into into the next arc like pretty much next like in the next season or something like that. But yeah, yeah, I think this arc is essentially this arc is the season 4 is definitely going to end with with the school festival arc, which might seem a little like a little bit of a weak way to end things, but honestly, it's probably best in order to leave looking at it at the structure of the story, it is best in order to leave the next arc for the next arc as a season opener rather than a season ender, honestly. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Electric Crunchyroll. Dead Knight of Me, signing off. Later, guys.